Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be addressing a problem that a lot of people have, plantar fasciitis. And it's when you have heel pain, and if you have it, you'll know that you have it. So this is a common condition of people that maybe have a little bit of immobility in the ankle, maybe flat feet, maybe you're an athlete and you propel, and because of those conditions, or a knee or a hip condition or a back condition, it comes down into the ankle in such a way that everything hardens and there's no mobility there. So we're going to practice today in our yoga practice things that will bring mobility to the toes, to the front of the foot, to the ankle, to the arch. So our arch is important, and if you've got flat feet, it's a higher degree of challenge for you because the weight's not spread evenly. So the arch is there as a bridge, and the plantar fascia, it's fascia, it's tissue, it's ligaments, and they stretch from the heel all the way up through the toes. So if that's tight, then you're going to have some pain, and it's going to end up being in the heel, and you'll know that you have it.
Before we get started, if you want to learn the basics of Iyengar Yoga,
I've designed a new course, Foundational Iyengar Yoga. This course is for you if you're a beginner, if you've been practicing for a while and you just want to deepen your understanding, or if you're a teacher and you would like to be more inspired, go back to the basics. So it's a 6-week course, 18 different classes, and you'll be able to go through at your own pace.
you can find more details in the description box below.
Okay, so the first thing, when we walk around all day, all of that starts to stretch. So you feel it mostly in the morning. So before you even get up in the morning, start to move your toes and do some ankle rolls. So it's not only with your toes in the front of the foot and the arch, but also with the ankles. If you have any imbalance in the ankles, it will present itself maybe in your fascia. Okay, so rolling the ankles and then moving the toes back and forth. And just do this from your bed so that you can start to open up the bottom of the feet. So you start to move back and forth, lengthening, and then just stretch your toes towards you. As you press your heels away, stretch your toes towards you, spread your toes. So you can do those several times, maybe 10 or 20 times each. And then, still in bed, this is something that we do quite often, one of our poses, but we do it on the mat. But here you're going to take the foot and then just start to massage it and lengthen it. Stretch the toes back. You can bring your fingers between the toes and start to massage the toes, bring some mobility there. And with the thumb, come right in between the mound of the big toe and all the other toes, and start to lengthen and stretch. And just giving yourself a little massage with the toes. So you bring some awareness to the toes and the front of the foot, because you're stretching all of that. Move the toes away, push the toes back, and do that several times, okay? So you're going to do the same with the other side. So you can take all of your fingers in your toes and start to move the toes up and down and around. So just bringing some more flexibility and release, okay? So that you do that, and then you can take the thumb and press it in while you do that. Just start to release some of that tissue, lengthen it. Okay, and then you can just roll to the side. And when you come up, it's advisable to have some shoes right at your bedside, because walking around barefoot is probably the worst thing for you. So have a pair of shoes or slippers or something that's supportive, and then stay in those. Best not to walk around barefoot, even though when we're doing your yoga, you are going to be barefoot. But I'll show you some things that will help to stretch in good ways so that you feel less tension. Okay? So first, before we stand up, and you could do this in bed too, you can come to Supta Padangusthasana. So you'll first adjust your pelvis, extend your leg, and then bring your strap, or if you have a towel, whatever you have, bring it right to the mound of underneath the toes. And here you're going to extend your heel. So this is your Achilles tendon, this tendon, the inner ankle, outer ankle, the heel, the arch, the toes, the front of the foot. And then draw the toes down towards you. Keep the other leg lengthened and still bring that into dorsiflexion, where you're bringing the toes back, extending the heels away from you. And spread the toes. And with the strap or with the towel, whatever you have there, press up into that so that you can feel the whole front of the foot being activated. You see your ankles, inner and outer ankle, in line with one another. Press up through the heel. And then here you're going to feel some work through the calf. The calf will be activated, which connects into the ankle. And depending on your condition, it may be that something's coming from your knee, it could be your hip, it could be your back. But mostly you want to start to isolate that into the foot, into the toes, into the ankle. And then you'll come down and you'll switch sides. So you straighten this leg first, extend through the heel, draw the toes back, and then have the strap on the ball of the foot. Lengthen the heel up. Now, if you can't come to that 90-degree position, it's okay. You can come down lower. Spread your toes. Press up into that strap, as if you were going to break that strap. And that will help you to tighten the kneecap, activate the quadricep, and the calf muscle. Lift the heel up. All right, so you can do that and hold that for a while. And then you can also come into Supta Padangusthasana 1 with the strap on the heel. So from here, if you have a lot of tension in that heel, just lightly pull on it and extend your heel up. So you're coming into that very flexed position through the front of the ankle. So already the back is, the legs are starting to activate. And when you bring the strap onto the heel, you can feel that connection from the heel bone to the ankle bone, to the shin bone, to the knees, to the thigh, and into your lower back. So you want your pelvis level. So all these things affect us. When one thing is off, it affects other parts of our body that we don't even realize. So coming into that balanced position, spread your toes, extend the heel up. Okay, so you can bring the strap to the side, roll onto your side, and then come up. All right, now we're going to go into Adho Mukha Svanasana. So Adho Mukha Svanasana, you're going to come onto the toes. So as I explained earlier, you're on the toes and you're stretching the whole surface of the foot. So this is where your fascia is, here, and usually there's a connection right here at the front of the heel, and that's where you can feel a lot of pain. So we're going to press the toes into the floor and come up. Walk your feet back. Be on the toes, be on the mounds, and lift your heels up. So focus on the big toe mound and all the way across to the baby toe side, and lift your heels up. You can look back at your ankles, see that your ankles are in line. Lift your hips up, press the mounds down, and lift the heels up. So lengthening the whole sole of the foot. Also bringing some strength and balance to the ankles, up through the calves, up through the knees. And then You can start on that also with the knees bent. Either way, if you have tight hamstrings, then maybe you have to bend the knees a little bit, but still pressing into those mounds, and then start to stretch the heels back. So in Adho Mukha Svanasana, we're directing the heels down and we're also lengthening them. It's okay if you don't bring your heels to the floor here. So you can have the heels lifted, but lift your toes up. Lift the toes, stay on the mounds of the feet, extend that Achilles tendon toward the heel, and lengthen the heel toward the end of your mat, not down toward the floor. Lift your toes up. And then come down. So you can do that as long as you'd like and as often as you'd like. All right, I'm going to stand up now. So we're going to use the wall. You're going to come to the wall, bring your hands to the wall, and you're going to balance. Have your feet hips distance apart. And then again, you're going to use the hands on the wall to balance and lift yourself up. Be on the mounds of the toes, lift the heels up, and then come down. And then you're going to do on one leg. Okay, so taking the weight to the left side, coming up, stretch that heel up, lengthen the calf, be on the big toe mound. So I could feel I was on the little toe side. The big toe tends to want to lift up. So press evenly through all the toes, lift the heel. And then other side. So this is really nice for stretching the whole bottom of the foot, lengthening. And then you can walk the arms up and lift up. Stay balanced on the inner and outer edge. Thighs moving back, tailbone moving forward. Reach the heels up. And then come down. So balancing poses are really good. It strengthens your ankles, and it comes all the way up to the knees and the hips. So we'll do one more balancing pose, tree pose, Vrkshasana. So first you can start with the foot on the floor, just to have your balance. And if you have your balance, you can take it up a little bit higher. When you're on this foot, make sure that you're still on the mounds of the feet. Lengthen the toes forward. You're on the heel, inner and outer heel, but lift up through the arch, okay? Depending. If you have too much pain in the heel, then maybe that's not going to be possible for you. But see if you can use the wall to balance yourself out. You can bring the fingers there and take the foot up as high as you can. So either here or those middle stages where I showed you. So pressing into the foot. Now lift the toes up. Lift the toes so you can feel the mounds of the foot, feel the heel, and lift up through the arch, lift up through the inner leg. Okay. Coming to the other side, press the heel. You can bring your hands onto your hips and press down into the mountains. So here, so you have your balance and you can think about what you're doing a little bit more. Press the foot into the leg. So now lift the toes up, be on the mounds of the feet. You can lift the toes of the foot on the inner thigh and the toes on the floor. And then come down, bring your foot down. All right, now we're going to go onto the floor and you're going to kneel. You can use 2 blocks, or if you have just some sort of height, you can use the height for this. So you're coming down and turn your toes under. And you want to get all your toes, so little baby toe side of the foot as well. And then here you have your weight on your toes, on the mounds of the toes. Your heels are lifted up, and you can come back, sit back. If that's too difficult for you, you can always have the blocks and use the arms to lift up a little bit. if you're having pain. Pain not from your plantar fasciitis, but from your toes bending like this. So we're just bringing mobility to the toes, to the ankles. And then you can use the blocks as well and lift the knees up. Bend the toes, lift the thighs, lift the knees. So now you can feel a full stretch at the front of the bottom of the foot. Try and be with it. Stay as long as you can. If you need to come down, take a break. You can do that a couple times. So now you're going to turn the feet the opposite way. So I have the toes moving back instead of curled under. And I'll use the blocks again. This time I'm going to lift the knees, so I'm bending the toes back. So I'm stretching the whole front of the foot. Use the blocks so you can use the strength of the arms, the abdomen, and lift up. And then you can come back to the first one. Roll the toes under. And you can just stay like this without lifting the knees at first. You can have a block there and sit on the block. This could be your favorite position, watching the kids play or watching something on your television, pressing the feet back, pressing the toes. And you're in charge of how much you can feel there. So I'm really pressing and moving the feet away, moving the front of the foot away so I can feel this tremendous stretch in the front, in the back of the toes. Okay, so that's one way to sit with it for a little while. And then coming back to that first position. Bring the toes close together. Lift the knees and bring the weight forward so you can feel that. First time I ever did this years ago, I could feel the tightness in my big toe. It was blocked. It was locked. So sometimes our toes aren't moving very well, especially if you're in shoes all the time. So getting out of the shoes and starting to bring some mobility to the toes is a good thing. So everyone feels it a little bit differently, depending on where that blockage is. So coming back to the reverse side now, press and lift up. And then release. Okay, now we're going to come into a lunge. So you'll step your foot forward, bring your other foot back, and here is that same position where you're propelling off the mounds of the toes, lengthening the whole bottom of the foot, lengthening the heel back. And then step that foot forward. And then come back, lunge the other. You can start with the foot on the floor. You can even be in a lunge with the knee on the floor and turn the toes under. You can start in that position. And then just notice where the weight is. So I can feel I'm moving to the little toe side of the foot. I'm going to press more into the big toe so I don't move away from that more blocked side. And then you can lift the leg up, move the heel back. Breathe into any sensation you feel, whatever you feel. Bring the breath there and just allow it to soften. After a while, it'll feel less intense. Coming forward again. Bring the knee onto the floor. Turn the toes under. And then lift that leg. Coming back. I did that side twice. You can do it again. Now I'm coming into Padangusthasana. I'm going to take hold of the big toes. Hold the big toes. Press the mounds of the feet down and pull the big toes up. So this is helping with a lot of things. I'm lengthening the hamstrings, lengthening and lifting up through the ankles and through the arches. Lifting up through the hips and lengthening the back. Okay, now you're going to take a block or a blanket, whatever you may have, and you're going to sit in Virasana. So it's a little bit like before with the toes like this. Now we're going to sit on the front of the ankle. So you're going to stretch your toes back, lengthen the feet. If you have any stiffness in the ankle, you can use a blanket here. Okay, if you have a blanket or you have a bolster and you have tight ankles, you can bring that blanket there, that little bit of a roll, front of the ankles, to help stretch out the front of the ankle. Okay, so we're dealing with not only the back of the foot, the inner and outer ankle, the front of the foot, the toes. So here, that gives you a little bit more stretch when that blanket is there. If you don't require that blanket, you can take the blanket away and you can just have the feet on the floor. So depending on how your knees are, if your knees are a little bit of an issue with you, then maybe you need this height. If you are able to sit on the floor between the ankles, and you would just come down and sit between the ankles, but sit in such a way that your back is lifted. So if it was difficult to lift the back, you could have actually just a little bit of height. So there's many different degrees here, but here I'm still really lengthening the outer ankle, and you can have your hands on your feet and give yourself that little bit of massage that you did when you first started in bed. So taking your fingers, your knuckles, whatever it may be, and see if you can get that little bit more mobility in the ankle, the front of the foot, and create a little bit of release for the bottom of the foot. Okay? Now, if you can sit on the floor comfortably, you can also put something underneath the knees, which will then elevate the knees a little bit more, and this angle will create more stretch down the front of the ankle. So depending on your practice and your flexibility, so that's another option. If just sitting on the floor, you don't get any kind of length there, you can take a little bit more height. Make sure that the back is lifted and you're sitting equally on both hips. Okay? So now coming out of Virasana, you're going to cross the ankles, come into Dandasana, stretch the legs out. In Dandasana, you have the feet parallel. Bring your fingertips behind you. And then again, draw the toes back towards you. Extend the Achilles. Extend the back of the heel. Keep your ankle, inner and outer ankle, level, balanced, and spread the toes. Descend the thighs down. And then stretch the toes away from you, and then back towards you. And then stop. Okay, so we'll go into Savasana. So for Savasana, I'm going to have you bring your feet to the wall. You can hear many people say that when you sleep at night, you can have your foot in a boot, or you could have a some sort of splint that you put on. And what that does is it keeps your feet in this flexed position. So naturally at night, your feet are curling in, more into that fetal position, that release, and then the fascia shrinks. So when you use a boot or a splint, you keep the sole of the foot open, okay? So you don't go back to where you were the day before. All right, so in Shavasana, we'll just take the feet at the wall, so you can feel the feet at the wall, and then release your arms out to the side. Let your thighs descend, be right on your backs of your shoulder blades, and roll the arms out. So have some space for the arms. You can have more space for the legs, but have the feet right at the wall, touching. So you're in that dorsiflex position. Okay? So you can stay here as long as you like. Namaste. Thanks for joining me. And I hope this helped you with your challenge if you have plantar fasciitis. If you don't have plantar fasciitis, all the more that you should know how to keep the feet mobile, the toes, the ankles, the heels, the front of the foot. And in your practice, incorporate these things so that it doesn't happen to you one day. There's an extraordinary amount of people that have this problem. Maybe you don't hear about it, but they all are going to the physio. So no need to do that. All you need to do is to take your case in your hands and start to think intelligently about how you can open that space and how you can bring some flexibility where you need it. Okay? So I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.